Hey guys. So, wife and daughter are not back yet. So since I have the time, I actually we had something happen. I actually had to do tip repair on my Fortis. So I'm already done and fixed the tip. What happened was I was cutting something and dinked it into one of these coasters that was on the counter. I was cutting down a box. I was using my Fortis. Uh, that finish on it is so frictionless, right through corrugated cardboard, no problem. But like I said, what happened was I dinked the tip into one of the coasters, and I'm basically doing a little bit of minor tip repair. But I've been using it a lot, and I've been doing a lot of cutting, so it was significantly duller than it was. But I've already just about finished with the course stone. And we've talked about I had to re-wet it. It's kind of dry out here. We've talked about how I do this some of the sharpening. I'll slide this back and I'll pull this up a little bit because there's no way I'm going to be able to do it with the rear-facing camera and have you guys be able to see it. So when I hold the stone, and yes, my thumb is much better. Thank you guys for the guys of you that have asked. I hold the stone in my hand like this, and this is how I get kind of a unique. The stone moves in my hand, and so as I'm sharpening, the knife moves a little bit and the stone moves a little bit, and I wind up with a pretty nice convex edge. And convex edges, I like convex edges. They hold a little bit longer because of that, what I was talking about in the video about it being more like a wedge and pushing material out of the way, and you don't have as much riding on the blade. They just seem to last because there's more meat to them. They're not that straight angle. There's a little bit more meat to that edge. So that was about 250 grit. I'm sorry, not 250. That was a 600 grit stone. That's about the coarsest I go, really, because those water stones work really well. They cut really well. And I usually switch to this 1000 grit king stone, and you can hear the difference in this. I'll actually drop this down. You guys don't have to see my ugly mug. You kind of want to see what's going on. So you can hear the definite difference in that grit. And so now, like I've said in numerous videos that I've talked about this, once you set your apex on that coarse stone, all you're really doing is refining that and just bringing that scratch pattern down a little bit. And I don't count the strokes when I sharpen. I listen to changes in the way the blade sounds, and you can tell when you've formed a burr. And if you get good enough at it, you can kind of tell where you're at and maybe not even necessarily form an actual burr. So that's at 1000 grit. We're gonna see here. It feels pretty good. I had a couple little micro cracks or micro chips on the blade. I have a couple knives in that I have to sharpen. I got one from Mr. Tabor. I want to contact him because he had initially said that he wanted a finger choil put in the knife that he was sending me, but never really done a finger choil, which is this. What I want to make sure is if he wants that, or if he just wants me to do a nice sharpening notch, because what he sent me was a cold steel Master Hunter, and I'll go in a minute and get it. But there's been a few of it that said that you wanted to see a sharpening video, and I haven't done one in a while, so I'll actually drop this down a little bit further. So, like I said, I'm just refining that scratch pattern, and I actually brought this back a couple degrees to account for the thickness of blade stock. And so what I do from time to time is I stop, I look and see how much of that coarse stone scratch pattern is still left on there, and then work my way and see that if there's any areas where maybe I haven't taken that off 100%, because you don't want to leave. You want to get as much of your, just like when you're polishing a piece of metal or sanding a piece of metal, you want to get as much of your previous grit scratch pattern off as you possibly can, because as you go further and further up in grit, it's going to get harder and harder to do. And that tip has been straightened back up. Yep. Straighten the tip back up. It's sharp all the way to the tip, which is what I want. None of that coarse scratch pattern is left. I think whoever owned this is a pre-owned knife. I think whoever owned this had tried to sharpen it, and they kind of got it ground a little bit. I thought it was one of Elliot's edges, but as I got to looking at it, I kind of tell that whoever had owned it before had done some sharpening on it. So I said, you guys said that this is kind of what you wanted. This is I see this as being a very boring video, but so pretty much done on the 1000 grit. Didn't even really, 20 CV is really abrasive resistant. So if you can see here, I didn't even really form much of a slurry. Didn't take much material. This is the stone that you really see that you have done something with. This stone's really hard, so I like to take my Nagura stone and do a little bit of a build-up of slurry. This stone needs flattened too. It's got a couple little low spots right there, as you can see, but not so much that it would be. This stone cuts incredibly well. So you can see I'm already starting to build that gray slurry where the material is actually, you can see where it's mixing with the steel, and you can see how this thing is just taking off a good bit of material. I wish all the stones cut this well. But this stone will actually, if I've got a bunch of knives and I try not to wash off the slurry if I'm doing more than one knife. Because like I've said before, the slurry is what does all the work. It really does. The slurry is what's doing the cutting. That as that stone breaks apart, that matrix that forms in between the knife and the stone does an amazing job doing cutting. So you can see how well this stone cuts. You can tell by listening when you've gotten that scratch pattern off. It changes the sound of the stone and knife, the interaction between the two. It changes. You want to use as much of your stone as possible. You don't want to wear. It doesn't make sense to flatten your stones if you haven't used the entire surface of the stone. Because you're wasting money, because these stones get expensive. These are about, I think these ones are about 60 bucks, 30 bucks, something. I can't remember how much the last time I paid for these. I had found some that are basically the same stone on Amazon. This one I got in Japan when I went the time before last. So these are pretty nice stones. It's got a coarse side and a really fine side, and this is about 2,000, 3,000 grit. So now we are going to, you guys are going to see a little secret of mine. But we're going to have to take a break in here because I have got to prep something first. So I don't want you guys to have to sit and wait. So we're going to pause. All right, here's one of my little secrets, one of my little tricks. You guys know and have heard me say I have an Edge Pro. Well, I also have the Chaucera stones for the Edge Pro. And I use them just like I use my regular stones, because the angle doesn't change. But these stones, this is a 2,000 grit. it's a little bit finer. They do a little bit better job of just polishing up that edge. These stones do an amazing job, and I can use them just like I can a regular flat stone. And then I'm not, for the price I paid for them, I'm not wasting any stone, because if you can see how narrow it is, I'm not using just one portion of the stone. I'm using the entire stone, so they don't wear as unevenly as a big flat stone. I'm thinking about getting more of these because I really like how they work, and for what I'm doing, my contact surface is just right there at that one point, and on another stone I'm having to move the stone around to find different contact areas, so I'm utilizing the entire stone. This, I don't think I'm wasting as much stone, and they are cheaper. They are cheaper than, say, buying I think I paid 60 bucks each for these stones. When you look at a 10,000 grit flat bench stone that I had, I told you guys how much I spent on that. I have a 12,000 grit ceramic stone that cost more than a lot of knives that people own. It really makes sense to buy these, and I use the other Edge Pro stones the same way. They're not the same kind of water stones. They are more of almost what my father would have called a whetstone or an oil stone. They're silica carbide, I think, or aluminum carbide. I don't remember which. I think they're aluminum carbide because you use silica carbide to flatten them on a glass plate. But yeah, these, as you can see, like I said, it cuts really well, and you get a really good edge finish. As you can see, that is the 2000 grit, and that is as mirrored polished as a lot of people send what they call their mirror polished edges out. But you guys know me, we're not done yet. There's a little spot up here where there's just some more. I always have to work on the tip, on that side where it's pushing away, because for some reason I don't touch as evenly all the way to the tip as I do on the stroke towards me as I do on the stroke away. So I do a better job of touching all the way to the tip on this stroke towards me better than, oh Jesus Christ. Sorry about that, guys. I bumped the button on my tripod. I apologize. I did not mean to turn you guys off. So like I said, you guys wanted this boring video, but yeah, like I was saying, these cut really, really well. So now let's move to the 3000 grit stone. And I am going to start doing this. I wanted to talk to you guys about something. I have realized, I don't know if you guys have, some of my subscribers have said this, I don't watch TV anymore. I've gotten to the point where I watch other YouTube channels and watch other followers or other YouTube video producers, or if that's what we call YouTubers. And I found that my daughter does the same. Our TV, I might watch the news in the morning, but if our TV's on, because I have a smart TV, it's set up to watch YouTube. That's what we're watching. And so what I did was I went through, and since I have a Patreon, I know that I told you guys I was going to refrain from this, but I just wanted to let you guys know it's pretty cool. I actually found a couple of channels that I really like and I watch regularly, and I figured I'm not paying. I turned our cable off, so I figured I'm not paying for cable anymore. I actually subscribed to a couple channels on their Patreon, and one of them is Reckless Eating. Those guys are insane. It's stupid what they do. But yeah, and another thing I'm kind of hoping, this would be cool if it worked. I subscribe to a channel on Instagram called Raging Jap Knives, and they've got some pretty cool knives in the like the $120 dollar range. And I sent them a little quick thing on Instagram. I was like, hey, they were looking for distributors in the United States and Europe. And I said, you know what I could do? This would be cool. Why don't you send me a couple samples and I'll do YouTube videos on them. And I said, I also know of a couple of other people that I might be able to talk to, and I was thinking specifically of Birdshot ID, and touching base with them and see if they wanted to get them after I was done with them, and we could just kind of pass them along, because I've looked at some of the pictures on Instagram and they're making some pretty nice knives. So anyway, we're just about done with the 3000 grit stone here. And that is pretty much a mirror polish. But I decided to bring you guys along for the full ride. Sit down for a second here. This is my 10,000 grit. And we are going to give it its final run on these. This stone does not form the slurry that the other ones do. So what I usually do is when I flatten it just real quick on the lapping stone, I leave some of the residue on there, but this one just has a tendency to get shiny and load. So I'm usually pretty careful about not letting it load up too much. This one I will occasionally use the Nagura stone on. So I posted something on 9gag. I posted a picture that I had already posted previously on my Instagram feed, and apparently it was pretty popular. I keep getting notifications that people have upvoted my comment on 9gag, or my picture on 9gag. And I have to tell you, CM, if you're watching my videos, it's a post that you put on Instagram and I stole it. So I'm glad you don't copyright anything. So let's see. Oh yeah, that's stupid sharp. Now, let me get back in frame here because we're done with this. I may put it on a strop here in a minute just to touch up take it up to like 50,000 grit as opposed to 10,000. So I did thin that angle back a little bit. Oh my God, 20 cm takes a wicked edge. That is ridiculous sharp. It's as sharper. It's sharper than my Archbishop is right now. Archbishop was cutting a bunch of stuff too. Just even touching it to the paper in it. So, yep, pared the tip, even that edge out, thinned it out. I'm not gonna lie, this knife with that super polished finish that now Chris has started doing again. So they called it, I think he called it shinified. Last I looked, it is so smooth when you cut through things. There's so little additional friction along the edge of that. It's just amazing. Yep, all the way up to the tip, mirror polished. So I'm gonna try and maybe sharpen Chris's knife before my wife and kid get back from ice skating. I almost feel guilty. I could have done some work today, but I didn't realize that they were gonna stay as long as they had. I already have lunch ready, but it's kind of past lunchtime now. So I went and watched her skate for a little bit and then left. And now here I am at the house, having not actually done any work except for, I did a YouTube video early this morning and just did this one, but I'm gonna sharpen a couple knives. But as far as my own business, my insurance, didn't do anything with that today. So, all right guys, there's your sharpening video that some of y'all wanted. I know it's not the greatest. I need to get a different setup to do this. Like I said, I need a taller iPad or a tripod. I think I'm gonna do that today. I'm gonna find a tripod online and get it ordered. But yeah, other than that, I need to go to the base and get some Roundup because I haven't rounded up these weeds for a while, and it's getting a little wild back here in the yard. Next thing you know, I'll have mice, and I don't want that. I let this get all overgrown one year, and it was bad. So, all right, guys, that's it. I'm out of here. I'll see you next time. Hey, guys, sorry about that. I know I already ended the video, but two things that I forgot. Well, something I forgot, and then something I wanted to mention. So this is the knife that Chris sent me to sharpen. Now, see how that just comes down like that and just ends so abruptly at that edge grind? I am curious if he's wanting me just to put a sharpening notch in right there, or if he wants me to actually put in a finger choil, which, I mean, I could do on the grinder, but really don't like modifying knives because I don't know. I'm afraid that that would change the way it interfaces with the lock. I've been looking at it real hard, and that's kind of what touches at the point and prevents that from going any further. And the other thing I wanted to say was, didn't realize it until I finished the video and reviewed. You know me, I review my videos, trying to get this light correct. I review my videos before I post them. Me talking about the Patreon thing was not a plug for my Patreon. That was just me killing time, and it was something funny because I actually did donate to another channel. So I didn't want you to think I was trying to convince you guys to do that. That wasn't, I had said I was not going to do that very often, and I realized after I got done that that's kind of what it sounded like. Typical of Cold Steel, this has got an incorrect angle at the tip. You guys can keep telling me I'm wrong all you want, but it's just simply ground at two different angles the whole length of this. This side is more obtuse of an angle than the other side. It really is. It's just something that they can argue. Lynn Thompson actually commented on my video and said he didn't agree, but I can look at it and see it's great. And they say that they're all sharpened by hand, and it's don't get me wrong, it's sharp. But you know, these knives get expensive. Mr. Tabor was going to buy the most expensive knife they make, which is a lot like this one. Don't get me wrong, this is a nice knife. Triad lock, made in Taiwan. It's CTS XHP, and it looks like some G10 scales, nice and light. Like I said, argue with me all you want, it's misground. So yeah, there's that. This is the knife that I'm going to probably wind up sharpening today. And then my friend Nico's wife is getting a Ferrum Forge scepter, and I'm going to sharpen it for him. So, all right, guys. Yep, not to add a lot more time to the video, but I've never gotten. I don't ever remember doing a video about one of these, so I have a chance to do it. All right, guys. Talk to you later.